Let's get this party started. For the San Lorenzo Valley Water District Board of Directors meeting for September 4th, 2025. Mr. General Manager, would you take roll?
Sure. President Smalley.
Here.
Vice President Lang.
Here.
Director Fultz.
Here.
Director Largay.
Here.
Director Russ.
Here.
All are present.
Okay. Seeing nobody from the public in the room nor online, we can go to any changes to the closed session
There are no changes to the closed session
Okay.
agenda.
and oral communications? We have none. So we can adjourn to closed session. So I have 6:30. We will reconvene this meeting of the Board of Directors for the San Lorenzo Valley Water District for September 4th, 2025. Leah, would you take roll again, please?
President Smalley,
Here.
Vice President Lane. Here. Director Foltz.
Here.
Director Largay
Yes.
and Director Rest.
Yes.
All board is present.
Okay. The board has no reportable actions taken during the closed session. Any changes to the agenda for the open session?
Yeah, one change. Item 10A will be removed from tonight's agenda and will be placed on the September 18th agenda.
Okay. All right. Then we can start with oral communications. For any members of the public, of which I see none in the room and one online, does anybody want to comment on an item that's not on our agenda this evening? Seeing none, there's no unfinished business. Moving on to new business. Then we start with item 10B, the hazard fuel reduction.
And Chris will be bringing that back to the board's attention.
Yeah, so today I'm bringing the hazard fuel reduction contract to the board for its consideration. This was previously brought to the board at the past meeting, but we brought it back with additional analysis, and we also got additional cost information from some of the vendors. So we provided a updated matrix, and this matrix, we asked them all to have a consistent 7 crew members and also have a registered professional forester included, to kind of get a more apples to apples comparison. And so this table kind of talks about that. It's, to be fair, not a complete apples to apples comparison. It is still very difficult with this kind of work, we found. But based on our analysis here, I have still recommended that we move forward with Powers Forestry. And we still have 171,000 for this project and $1,000 cost share. I'll also note, after discussion with Director Foltz, another possible option to move forward with this is to split the contract award between 2 of these contractors. So I prepared a kind of recommended way that we can move forward with that. And that would be providing the new site work to Powers Forestry, because I think this will be more of the forestry focused work. And obviously the forestry focused consultant would make sense for that. And then provide all the maintenance sites to the other consultant, which would be ecological concerns. And so if we were to move forward with that option, that would be approximately a $71,000 contract for Powers and a $99,000 contract for ecological concerns. So I want to provide that other option to the board and seek feedback on which pathway you would like to proceed with.
Okay. All right. So since I heard your name mentioned, Director Foltz.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still, when I was looking at this, I appreciate the work you did to try to get to an apples and apples comparison, though. I have to say, when I look at PG&E crews, sometimes taking 2 people out might be an advantage to productivity, not necessarily a detriment. It still looked like there was substantial cost difference, and that's when I threw out the idea of, is there some way to take advantage of both of these guys, since they're so closely scored otherwise? We can address how scoring should be done in the future, but under your current rubric, they're very, very close. And so I thought maybe we get a better bang for the buck if there was some way to come up with splitting it. And it sounds like there might be. I would personally be in favor of doing something like your option A, because I think it's better for the district. It's better for the people that are giving us the grant money, and ultimately I like to have lots of vendors available for future business opportunity.
And to clarify, you're recommending the option where we split the cost?
Yeah, sorry, that's, I mean, you had the
Split the contract.
recommendation and
Right,
option A.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and at least that's the way I understood it, but if option A is the original proposal, option B is the split thing, I want the split.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so other questions, comments on what Chris has put out here in front of us and what we've heard from both Chris and Director Foltz?
Just for my, I guess, education, a registered forester, what is that? What did that allow them to do?
Well, a registered forester is essentially, so actually, Ecological Concerns has said they have a number of certified arborists on their staff.
Okay.
Certified arborist is like a 2 to 3 year certification. Registered professional forester is typically like a 5 year or 6 year kind of experience in education. It's, in my view, more of a hands-on forestry overall view of things, whereas arborists obviously have some of that as well, but a little bit less so, and I think more of a tree focus and less of a whole kind of overview focus in terms of like a whole forest stand versus just looking at a particular tree within the bunch.
So for a contract to take out hazardous trees, would there be a substantive difference between what a certified arborist would provide versus a registered forester?
I mean, I would feel more comfortable with, especially on our properties, having a forester being out there.
Huh.
Now, we are proposing that it would just be a check-in from a registered forester occasionally to make sure that the work is going according to our prescription. It wouldn't be like they would be out there every day. Although with Powers, he is out there most days with the crew and he is an RPF. So that is a slight advantage that they have. I will note that the Ecological Concern kind of quote, they did not have pricing information on an RPF yet. So that's not included in there. But yeah, they could have an RPF out there and they have a contact that they could work with.
And if you do the split
Yeah,
option, and Ecological gets the maintenance sites, then I'm assuming maybe the RPF is less needed?
yeah, I would say it's
a little more
less-
obvious what needs to be done.
less necessary.
Okay.
It may be necessary at some sites, we're not entirely sure, but yeah, definitely less necessary.
Okay. All right.
Alina?
Yeah, what was the cost? Sorry, I'm like, what was the cost savings by splitting it?
It would not be a cost savings necessarily. We're still gonna spend that full 171,000.
Oh,
But the essentially, I think in the what do you call it, the matrix, we have kind of cost and how many sites they could get done in a day,
okay,
number of sites completed within budget. And the issue that we have with getting to that number is that Ecological Concerns did not provide how long a site would take. Whereas Powers Forestry did. And so we had a actual timeline for Powers Forestry as to how long each site would take. And we were working off of assumptions on Ecological. So yes, it is not an exact science here. But I mean, the per day cost for Ecological Concerns is less.
yeah, I see that.
And so we would assume that their cost is gonna be less per day for the maintenance site than Powers.
Yeah, yeah, but they might not be able to get as many sites done for that money, you're saying?
Well, if their cost per day is less and they produce at the same rate, they would get more sites done for the same amount of money.
Yeah, if they produce at the same rate.
Right, which I mean is kind of the bet that you're making on this, but their per day cost is less with the same amount of crew. And so you would hope they would, and same equipment, so you would hope they would get the same amount done generally.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
What's
Right.
name?
I like the idea of two contracts, although normally I would hate that idea because if I were you, I would have to manage two contracts, and that's But given that this is a lot of money and we're not sure about the production rates of the different teams, trialing them out seems to make a lot of sense to me. The issue of hazard tree mitigation in this landscape is not going away. The one question I had, the Powers Forestry team, are they coming from Northern California or do they have local personnel?
Yeah, so they're in the Bay Area, but they are coming from a little ways away.
Yeah.
And so that does add some of the cost that results in a little bit of the higher cost.
Right, so if ECI does have high production rates, if they're coming from the valley, that's pretty good, or Santa Cruz.
Right, yeah, they're coming from Santa Cruz, so they'll have less of that transit time, less of those associated costs.
Right. And then just one follow-up, with the registered professional forester, one of the qualifications they have is typically in erosion control, where an arborist would not. So you might leverage that to do a sweep, maybe even have the Powers Forester look at the ECI sites and tell them how to clean up the mess if there is one.
That's a good point. Thanks, Brian.
And when Brian says sweep, I don't think you mean with a broom. Right?
Right,
So
yeah.
tell us what a sweep is.
Just inspecting the sites to verify that
Okay.
they're ready for the winter.
Okay. And I didn't know whether you were referring to stormwater pollution prevention control plan, which is also commonly
Oh, right,
called
a sweep or
sweep.
SWIP, right,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that
Okay,
is a
okay.
whole nother.
But
ball
just
of
being
wax.
able to go look at the other maintenance sites also as a potential check. Okay. What I think I'm hearing you say, Chris, and I think Director Foltz is alluding to it. Same cost, so we're going to use up the full grant,
Yes.
but the possibility of more production. So more maintenance sites being done because you're going to use the less expensive contractor to do the maintenance sites. The more expensive contractor to do the new. I put the two of them together and maybe we get a little bit more done that way.
That's the idea.
I could support getting more done for the same grant money that we have out there. So, yeah. Yeah. Or the possibility of that. We're not guaranteed it, but the likely possibility of that. Okay,
One thing I forgot to mention.
sure.
So there's quite a bit of progress being made on the Measure Q vision plan, which is going to create a $3+ million grant program. It looks like the two of the three priorities will include fire preparedness and water resource protection. And this type of a project might queue up very nicely to finish the gap, whatever the gap might be between what the current grant pays for. And I think the solicitation for that should be in the next 6 months. So just keep that on your radar.
And was that on purpose? Queue up?
No.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none in the room and none online. Would somebody like to make a revised motion from what we have here?
Well, let me try. I
Okay.
move that the board directs the general manager to enter into a contract with Powers Forestry for hazard fuel reduction for new treatment sites and ecological concerns for maintenance treatment sites.
Approximate dollar figures.
And, sorry, in the amount of, in the total amount of $171,125.
And if I could clarify that further, I think we should have Powers contract of
I see what you mean. I see, 71,000.
71,000.
Yeah, whatever the split is.
Right, 71,000 to Powers and the other 99 to ecological concerns. Yes.
Do you want the actual figures or are you?
Yes,
We
Yes,
want those
please.
figures that you were reading out so that, because we are committing to a contract, contracts here. And yes, routinely, we do have the contract amounts that we're authorizing Jason to then issue. So, yeah.
Okay, so Powers would be $71,670. And then ecological concerns would be $99,455.
Okay.
Yeah, those numbers in the motion.
Right.
So I can't
So,
remember. 'em.
Did you
Yes.
get the numbers and
71,670 to Powers, 99,455 to Ecological.
yes,
Yes.
okay, all right. I will second that amended motion.
President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes,
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Larday,
Yes.
and Director Beck.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Okay. Moving on then to the Highway 236 slurry removal.
No, be Garrett.
The matter before the board is a contract change order for the removal of slurry in Highway 236 per Caltrans direction. This is related to the district's line and big steel pipeline improvement project with Monterey Peninsula Engineering. The board awarded the contract in February of 2023. The project replaced approximately 12,000 feet of pipeline, new 12-inch ductile iron pipe, installed the public right of ways and backfilled with 2 sack slurry per Caltrans standards. After the project was completed, Caltrans contacted the district with concerns about groundwater and pavement unraveling at approximate post mile 0.2 of the northbound lane of Highway 236. District staff went out and tested the water and determined that it was not from the distribution system, that it was groundwater. And we discussed with Caltrans whether it was appropriate for the water district to mitigate groundwater concerns. Caltrans ended up placing a plate over the pothole and filling the pothole. District staff met with legal counsel to discuss if we had any grounds to avoid mitigating the pothole and the groundwater. District counsel said that we did not, and that we had to address the slurry backfill and the groundwater and the pothole in the road. The district entered into a contract with the engineer of record for the line and big steel project, Chaffin Wheeler, to develop repair plans for Caltrans review and approval. Those plans were sent to Caltrans. Caltrans issued an encroachment permit for the slurry removal. The district sent the plans to active contractors that we have on district projects, to Anderson Pacific and Lewis and Tibbetts. And the low price was from Anderson Pacific in the amount of $218,242. So we're asking for the board's approval to authorize a contract change order with Anderson Pacific to perform the slurry removal in Highway 236. This expenditure will be tracked as part of the line and big steel project, not as part of the consolidation project. It's kind of a matter of convenience that the contractor already has equipment and he already has a staging area. He's already under contract. We've already done labor compliance, sub-consultant. We're all ready to go. So it appears to be the most economical way forward to deal with the slurry removal. So with that, I can take any questions you have.
Okay. We'll start with you, Director Russ.
Thanks, Garrett. I guess, if you don't mind, for my education, it looks like the contract that would be let is for approximately 300 feet of length. Is that
Correct.
correct? And how was the 300 determined? I mean, because I'm imagining that the 12,000 feet of pipe we replaced and slurry that we put in is basically a barrier. The groundwater is piling up against this and then in some places coming to the surface. Is that what's happening?
There's a discrete location where there's a pothole that's visible at the surface of the pavement. It's actually located on the downslope side of the slurry backfill. You might think that the groundwater would collect on the uphill side as it's going towards the creek, and it would surface prior to passing through the slurry. But for whatever reason, the pothole is actually on the creek side of the slurry trench.
Right, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
And why 300 feet as opposed to 20 feet plus or minus the pothole or something smaller?
We showed the engineer of record the location of the pothole, and they determined the extent of the slurry removal. And that was approved by Caltrans.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand. It just seems like a lot of length to replace, obviously, right? If it were half that length, presumably it's gonna be half the cost, right? But
Possibly,
Yeah.
a lot of the cost has to do with just mobilization and getting traffic control. There's some costs like that. I think there's a breakdown of the costs
yeah,
included. So we could look at that.
okay.
So without cutting it to half of the length might end up being 65% of the cost that you have right now, or 70% of the cost.
I would expect the price to be less if there's less work.
Yes, but it wouldn't be 50% if you cut the length by half, just from mobilization and traffic
that makes
control.
sense.
Those are the,
They have labor of
costs.
80,000, material of 60,000, equipment 26,000, and then a subcontractor for 50,000. And that's how they get up to the $218,242.
And we were originally following Caltrans specs when we did the slurry.
Correct.
So does that imply that I guess I'm searching for lessons that we can learn from this. Does that imply that do we always have to follow Caltrans specs and then be responsible for it not working out, or can we
So-
make independent engineering decisions?
On the consolidation project, we're backfilling with native material because of this issue. Now, we had to get a special authorization to do that. And we also had to get special authorization from the county when we're working in the county's right of way. The bottom line is anytime we have our infrastructure in somebody else's right of way, we have to maintain in perpetuity that infrastructure. So if there's a leak and that causes some erosion, we would be responsible for making the road whole again.
Okay.
Or if we're attached to a bridge and our pipe somehow damages the bridge, we would be responsible for bridge repair.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I guess yeah, I know it's a long process to have gotten here. You've got everybody lined up. They're all queued up to do this work. Was there ever any attempt to ask, I guess, the engineer of record, hey, is there any way this could be trimmed to 200 feet? Or, you know, I'm sure the engineer of record had a rationale for why 150 feet on either side. I don't know. I mean, you're the registered civil engineer, so I just don't know if there was a way to query what was the line of thinking, you know? Because if we can trim 50 or 100,000, that's obviously a lot of money for us.
I did not discuss that with the engineer of record. My main focus was getting something to Caltrans that they would approve so that we could mitigate the pothole.
All right, thank you.
Could probably follow up to Russ's thing.
are you good with my questions?
I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Alina?
Well, I'm looking at the map here and I'm very familiar with this section of road and that water is coming down Redwood. There is a whole issue during the winter that was before we ever opened this road up, and it comes down and it comes through this like person's driveway and it goes across the road. And I didn't notice that happening after we did it. So it was like it was going underground then. And so if we shorten that, I don't think we would capture that water that's coming down in the winter time. Just FYI from what I've witnessed in the winter time in that section. So I'm almost worried he should have gone a little farther, but well, we'll see. They gotta prove.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that's clarification questions on this.
I mean, did you talk to them any about the fact that there was a lot of runoff in that area? We have a lot of surface water. It almost looks like we have a leak right there every single winter and people like say something about it, but it's just, you know, runoff.
So there are a series of storm drains at this location. There's a storm drain that runs parallel with Highway 236. And then there's a storm drain that runs perpendicular at Azalea and goes down to the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially, when I contacted Caltrans, I was trying to see if we could partner on some kind of storm drain improvement
Right.
where they would, we would contribute maybe some amount of money to the project, but ultimately it would be their storm drain that they would maintain and they would, design,
Right.
and they were not willing to work with us on that. And so,
That's really unfortunate because
Yeah.
I do really feel like overall this is a storm drain issue that's not capturing water runoff.
that was my feeling as well. That it was a storm drain issue in groundwater and didn't have anything to do with our pipe. We followed their spec with the backfill. And so
Yeah.
it's just
Well,
unfortunate.
legal said what legal said, so that's where we're at.
Brian?
I guess, hearing this discussion, I'll just, thank you for exploring all of these avenues at cost containment and not being held responsible for stuff that we might not have done. I guess along the same lines of inquiry of lessons learned and things like that, would there have been trench inspection that might have seen a high water table during construction that had been identified, might have led to a permeable backfill rather than a slurry? Or I don't know how that, if you're following Caltrans specs, you just follow their specs, I guess.
Yes, it's something that we could look at. This is the second time the district has had a problem with slurry backfill. So Quail Hollow Road was also an issue where there's
That's
a lot of sand, native sand material. And we did 7,700 feet of pipe on Quail Hollow Road. And we ended up having to repair 1,000 feet. I believe the bid for the project was around 2.2 million. And we ended up spending around 900,000 to repair 1,000 feet.
it was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I think there's a problem farther up on 236 too, because then it was raining, those portholes were shooting water up. And I actually called it in because I thought there was a leak and then the rain stopped and then they stopped coming up the portholes down 236 farther up, so. See what this winter does.
Karen?
Yeah, there was water coming up, I was like this high out of one of them and then the rain stopped and it stopped, so.
Well, you know this, but just for your benefit, Jason, in case you're still getting caught up on the crazy geology of the Santa Cruz Mountains, we've got like the highest frequency of landslides and slope instabilities in the Western US or something like that. I don't know, outside of Hawaii, and a lot of it has to do with these funky water table situations. And that aside, the only other thing I can think of is if we fix it and the pothole doesn't go away because it's not actually caused by our slurry, are we still on the hook? What's your sense of that?
My sense is Caltrans will try to make us responsible for any work in our vicinity that goes wrong. And it will be up to us to establish that it's not our responsibility.
It seems challenging. The very heavy rain we got that year caused all sorts of wet spots to appear that hadn't been around for a long time. And it may have been coincidental. But hard to, when the onus is on us and the explanation is underground, it's pretty hard to show conclusive proof that we're not responsible.
My first reaction was to resist their assertions.
You good, Brian?
Yep.
Okay. I'm pleased to hear that that we did change what we were backfilling with on the work that Edison Pacific is currently doing up to Brackenbury for that new line. given that slurry backfill caused us more significant problem in Quail Hollow, I think it's appropriate to go back into our specs and incorporate some of these lessons learned into the specs so that it's not a standard that we follow, at Quail Hollow County standards, and on this Caltrans standards, to then have those come back and fight us during these high water table conditions. Now, whether that's truly the cause of this pothole or not, I think it would take us quite a while to say it's not, and other investigative work that's, and we still might not get to conclusive. So doing what we are and what you're suggesting here is begrudgingly, in my opinion, okay, but learning from it and then building that into our standards somehow, I think.
So Karen and I met with Caltrans and discussed that option about when we do work like this, applying for a variance on their specifications to incorporate that.
Right, okay. And in county right of ways also. And I don't know what our standard is in all of these residential areas,
Slurry,
whether we're using slurry.
all slurry.
That's currently the standard. We are going to bring an update to the district standards to the engineering committee
Okay.
in
Okay.
October. And so that'll be an opportunity where we can discuss if maybe we could have breaks in the slurry every 100 feet or every 500 feet.
Right, and
Or we can eliminate slurry.
I
don't
don't
backfill
think the committee should decide that. We want your professional engineer, but bring it to us to
Yeah.
say, here's how you're gonna change, with some input from outside engineering consultants also, as to, hey, this has been a problem that we've had twice,
Right.
causing us significant issues. What do we do different going
Yeah.
forward?
Is it to stabilize the pipe, the slurry?
The slurry is like self-consolidating, so when you backfill with the native material, first you have to process it, you have to pull out any rocks that are larger than 2 inches in diameter, any organic material or anything that you don't want. And then you have to make sure you meet a gradation and compact it to 95% relative compaction. Typically, that's done in 8-inch lifts. You take a sample, run a moisture curve on it, and then you'll have a geotechnical engineer come out and test it to make sure you're getting compaction. So that it's a lot more labor intensive to backfill that way. When you backfill with slurry, you have to off haul all the spoils. Then you have to order up the concrete trucks at the end of the day. They pour the slurry in and then you plate it. That's what they're doing on Graham Hill Road. And then the slurry gets hard and then they put an asphalt cap on it.
It's a faster way to complete backfill of
Yeah.
trenches.
Okay.
And being faster, it's more economical to go that way than to be backfilling with native.
Okay.
So, okay. Any comments from the public? I'm sorry.
Two more.
Right, okay.
I know I'm not
Right.
top of mind. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Well, apologize for that. I started here and I go back.
I get
So,
that. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just annoying beyond belief that twice we followed standards of the people who possess the ownership of the right of way. And yet we're the ones that are stuck on this. This can't continue. So whatever you guys got to do to not continue this, because let's be honest, a lot of the issues we have up here are due to the fact the county and state failed to maintain the culverts. The road washouts we get up here, a lot of the overflows and all the rest of it are due to the fact that their negligence of their infrastructure. And that causes a lot of flow down issues, including mudslide. So, I mean, I know we're not the biggest dog in the bunch here, but this is something that I think needs to be raised to a level of attention, perhaps through our elected representatives, if they're so inclined to deal with it. so that we're not the ones being stuck holding the bag for their failures. It's the same thing with paving. You know, if we get stuck doing all their paving maintenance for them, which we could very well happen. Yeah, so whatever you guys can do to make this not happen again would be really great. Outside of that, Anderson Pacific gets to, they're going to, I mean, I'm glad they came back with a low bid. I'm disappointed that it's as much as it is. But I don't think we have a whole lot of choice at this point.
Okay, all right. Any comments from the public on this? Seeing none. I move that the board direct the general manager to execute a contract change order for payment to Anderson Pacific Engineering Construction in the sum of $218,242 for slurry removal in Highway 236, increasing the not to exceed contract from $3,255,985 to $3,474,227.
I'll second.
President Smalling,
Yes.
Vice President Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Director Larday,
Yes.
and Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Okay. All right. Moving on then, the Olympia well field.
So in 2018, the district established a charitable endowment fund through the community foundation with initial contribution of $116,667 and possible contributions totaling $786,000. The fund is restricted for habitat management and monitoring of the Olympia watershed's designated habitat set aside. As of July 16th, 2025, the fund had generated a payout balance of $55,307. Staff advised that the funds could either be applied to an ongoing project with consultant Jody McGraw that was already budgeted, or reinvested into increase the long-term endowment payouts. Based on this guidance and under the assumption that it was within the general manager authority, staff reinvested the payout back into the fund. Some members of the public have raised concerns about whether the general manager has the authority to reinvest the payouts without board approval. To ensure transparency and in alignment with board direction, the following options are presented. Option 1, to ratify the reinvestment, approve the action allowing the funds to remain in the endowment, compounding to generate larger future payouts. Or option 2, request a withdrawal and direct the community foundation to return the funds for immediate use on eligible district projects. Board guidance is needed to confirm the appropriate treatment of the $55,307 from payouts and to clarify the scope of general manager authority regarding endowment reinvestments going forward.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, let's start with you, Brian.
The I don't have a strong opinion about this matter, other than it looks like we're being charged 1.5% annual fee by the community foundation for the privilege of keeping our money there, and that strikes me as high. And maybe there's a different financial institution that could hold money in a segregated account like this. My other recommendation with regard to the use of the funds is that I understand that their purpose is for the stewardship and management of these habitat reserves, consistent with a mitigation strategy there. And I expect that there is a budget for what is needed to meet those costs, and ensuring that the endowment can spin off that of 4% to meet those costs in perpetuity is the purpose of the endowment. If it's not spinning off that amount yet, then investing those proceeds so that it continues to grow would make sense, so that eventually it can be self-sustaining.
Okay. Alina?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this should be something that's within your jurisdiction and not the board to reinvest this and um I I trust that you're making the right decision as the general manager. And I'd like to see the money kind of grow so we can do more projects in the future because the amount of money that we have there doesn't seem like it's gonna do a whole lot right now. So um yeah, it's really all I have.
Okay, all right, Dr. Pulse.
Yeah, this I think gets into a much broader strategic conversation that the board needs to have. I don't know if we can have it tonight, but I would be comfortable with authorizing the general manager to act upon funds if we had a plan for what we were going to do with our conservation areas and the funds that are being generated. We have no plan at this point. That was not something that rose to anybody's attention in previous administrations. And this is why I think we really need to be partnering with people who do this as their sole strategic focus. It is not our strategic focus. And that's where the Zianti, for example, the Zianti Land Bank is a possibility and has expressed interest in doing a partnership with us, which I think would be advantageous for everybody involved and would give better outcomes for the conservation area that we have. I'm perfectly happy authorizing or sort of ratifying the decision to put the money back in. But I really want us to move beyond the stasis that we're in now. Either we're not going to do anything, or we're going to do something through a plan that we develop, or we partner with somebody that actually knows how to do this sort of thing for their living. The other thing I'm concerned about is just overall returns. So this comes down to me, it's a fairly business. Where do we get the best return? I'm assuming we went with a 501c3 because we thought people would donate money to this. I think if that was the reason we did it, I think I want to have whatever they're having at night because that's not going to happen. So when you take a look at our total return minus fees, net return, is it better to go just with a county fund? Is it better to do this? Is there somebody else, as Brian was saying, that can do it better? I think that also needs to be looked at as well. I know that there were a lot of sort of politics going on back in 2018 when this happened. It was sort of before the end of a sort of failed general manager's tenure. And so it may be time to revisit this in a number of areas.
Could I respond real quickly? So this endowment fund is particular to the 6.3 acre Olympia Conservation Area, which is already established,
I
and we
understand.
have a habitat management and monitoring plan, which was developed in 2020. So we do have a strategic direction for this particular area that the endowment fund is representative of. The endowment fund I believe you're referencing is for the larger 60 acres that we've discussed more recently.
No, it's for the whole thing. But we shouldn't be in the business of managing this conservation area, in my opinion. That should be with people that do it as a specialty. This comes down to strategic focus of an organization and how the more things you try to do, the less good you are at any one of them. So it'd be for everything. What do we do on an annual basis under that 2020 plan?
Yeah, so she is actively out there. There's been replanting, netting of native plants that might get browsed by deer or whatever. There's annual surveys. There's a number of activities that go on annually.
And do we send that out to bid?
I do not know.
If we aren't, why not? And what are the specific activities that we are supposed to do every year? Is there a particular maintenance plan every year? How much money did we spend this last year? And is there an offset we should be spending and pulling out of this? All I'm saying is that this to me seems like it is very much an amorphous thing under which there is no specific strategic and tactical plan to do X, Y, and Z on an annual basis and to measure that to make sure that it gets done. Jody is a very busy person. I would like to see her finish the habitat conservation plan as soon as possible and not do things in the field if that's getting in the way of the 8 or 9 years it's taken her to get that habitat conservation plan done. Hence, partnership with Zianti. And I know she does work for them. Great. Maybe, that will be more productive for her to do it under a larger rubric than our small little thing, because we're just not big enough to command a lot of time.
Okay. Director Russ?
I'm very comfortable ratifying the general manager's, I guess, activity. And I guess opposed to Bob's earlier point, it does kind of bring up the question, and I haven't looked at this, is from a policy point of view, I don't know if we have actually different categories of approval levels that you're automatically allowed to,
Yes.
to do. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the purchase policies, I can spend up to 30,000.
Up to 30, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but this was not viewed as a purchase,
Gotcha.
So there's a
We don't
reinvestment
even
back
touch
in the
it.
fund. right?
It's not something we dealt with. Okay, gotcha. All right, good. And if I just do the simple math of getting 55,000 over 7 years, it says that we made about 8,000 a year from the 116,000. And our fees were 2,000. So that is pretty high fees, to Brian's point, and I think it would be worth relooking at, is this really an effective place to have this endowment sit, especially for the long run? Because when you're you're grossing 10,000 and you're paying out 2,000, you're literally giving up 20% of your profit that should be used to, do good there in that 6 acres. So I would propose that we take a closer look at that. And I know there was mention of subsequent up to 786, but we have only invested the 116,000. Is that correct?
No, over more.
Oh,
No, the total, it's close to 300,000 invested.
Yeah, we've had other projects
Oh,
I
where we
thought it was
contributed
55.
that have used more of the land.
55
so
was
we
the
contributed.
payout that we reinvested.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
so that 7,800 is
Okay, that's-
rate of return on the whole amount, the
Yeah.
300. Okay, because I did not, I must have missed that. I didn't see that amount in there. Okay,
I think actually that might have been a question that I asked and got information
Ah.
from.
okay,
Jason.
all right. Yeah, it just wasn't clear to me. How much do we have working?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess that brings up the question, what is the rate of return? Because I was assuming it was 116. So it sounds like the rate of return is actually
Much less than.
much less, in which case the 1.5% fee is
I think
much more.
the calculation I did was about a 5.7% rate of
5.7?
return
And then minus 1.5 for the.
minus fees.
So
4%.
4.4%.
So 4%.
Yeah,
Right.
Roughly.
Okay, so that's worth, I think that's worth looking into because this is forever, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's finishes my question.
Okay, all right. I'm also comfortable with reaffirming what you've done up to this point, but I do have the more general questions about this. Along the lines of, based on what you've presented to us, it's still not clear to me, what's the long-term plan for this endowment fund?
Yeah.
We can have up to that 776,000 invested into it, but we're somewhere less than half of that now. When are we required to add money to this?
There's no requirement to add anything to it.
Right.
The idea was that we were gonna get to a balance where the payout was equal to the work being done.
Right,
So it's
on
paying for
an
itself
annual basis,
on an annual basis.
right, okay, but I'm gathering we were required to set up an endowment fund for this Olympia well field.
No, actually, you don't have to set up but you have to commit to doing certain things. And so the thought is that this would become self-funding over time as we did projects and contributed money in those projects to get up to the balance where it would self-fund. And that, by the way, is the same strategy for the other acres that we're adding.
That was the rationale in 2018 when they set up the endowment.
Okay,
It's a little unusual. Typically, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in issuing a biological opinion, which is the permit authorizing work in endangered species habitat, will require as mitigation the set aside of a certain area of habitat, the commitment by the permitted party to steward or manage that habitat in a particular way, and the establishment of an endowment to pay for it. That's usually all part of the package. So if they did not require an endowment, that's unusual flexibility. I'm not familiar with the specifics in this case.
So I've done one of these in my private life. We did not have to set up an endowment. What we did have to commit to spending X amount of money for Y number of years. So I think there is some, and potentially maybe it's public agency versus private. That could have also been a factor too. But I know that there's a financial commitment. This is how we are funding it. That was the idea, which makes some sense. It's just, are we actually managing to results?
and then do we shift this money to some other fund? The questions I've had brought up to that. The way the document is written, does the foundation own the assets of what's in there?
Yeah. There's no real termination capability in that contract.
So, okay, so if we have about 300,000 in there now, if we do get up to the 700.
I think Community Foundation would say, if you don't want to be here anymore, we'll release you.
I would agree.
I don't think that, I think whoever drafted the contract did a bad job, basically.
And I agree.
Okay.
I've spoken with Susan from the Community Foundation and
Okay.
I agree with that. So
Okay, all right. So I shouldn't read the,
they currently book it as a liability for them.
Right,
and asset.
right. Yes, and that makes sense. If they're booking it as a liability, then it's ours, not theirs, is what they're looking at. Okay, all right. Then, before we do any recommended motion, let's hear from our member of the public who's here.
Hi, I'm Bruce Holloway from Boulder Creek. There was actually more information about this in the Finance Committee packet last month. One of the things that was in that packet says the rate of return is 3.75% now. It's not 4%. It was 4% in 2018 when this was drafted. The board of directors of the Community Foundation sets that rate. It's like a dividend. They can set that rate anything they want. So it's currently 3.75%. Now, a few months ago, I think I asked, I said I was about ready to do a records request for the entire records of this endowment fund since inception, 7 years. And they do make quarterly statements. And at this point, there's enough confusion about this. I really think that all 7 years should be presented to the Finance Committee to look at it. So I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. On page 168, it says fund purpose. The fund is being established solely to fund annual habitat management and monitoring. Annual. So what's happened here is there's been income from this endowment for 7 years, and not a nickel has been applied to annual monitoring and maintenance. If you reinvest the money, that means that for 7 years, the purpose, as stated there, the sole purpose has not been met. On the other hand, based on what I know and what the environmental programs manager said, I believe that the district did spend $55,000 in the last 7 years. And so that $55,000 is general fund money, can be used for anything now. It can be used for tank recoating, it can be used for anything. I don't think it's restricted anymore because I think the district really did spend $55,000 in the last 7 years. By the way this thing worked, if you read it, it ramps up for 36 months. So the first year there was no return at all in 2019. And then every year since 2020, there's been some rate of return. It ramped up and it's currently paying about $11,000 a year. So that's what the $55,000 is. Now, if you go to page 176, it talks about ownership there. And it is theirs. Now, I've spoken to Susan True myself, and I don't think she's a CPA. Let's see, 176, ownership of assets. All gifts and contributions made to the fund are irrevocable and become the sole property of the foundation. So this idea that you can get all the money back, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's what this says. But I do think that you can get the 55,000 back. That much, you have a one-time chance right now, or in the near future, next month or so. I think you have a one-time chance to get the 55,000 back and spend it on a project. And I think you should. And I think there's been a disconnect here between finance staff and environmental staff. There really is a plan, and there really is money being expended every single year, and somehow finance didn't get that, and they just allowed it to accumulate in the checking account. That's why we originally were talking about it in the finance committee. We were asking, why is this money sitting there earning 0% interest? And so it was in that account for 6 years, apparently. So I'm disappointed that all of the information that was given to the finance committee last month is not being given to the board now about the 3.75%, about the community foundation. There were a lot of nice graphs about how the community foundation works. And I think we should see the whole 7 years at this point so we can understand. It sounds like they've gotten a terrific rate of return. It sounds like they've gotten about 100% rate of return in 7 years, which is great. But you know, if something's good, you should have more of it. And if something's bad, you should have less. So if this is a great way to go, I think there should be another endowment for tank recovery. You know, and I think if the finance committee gets into the nitty-gritty and starts evaluating how that would work out, I think you probably agree with me. Let's cut out the middleman, leave the third party out of it, and let's just spend the money directly on tank recovery. And I would say the same thing here. Let's get that money back and spend it directly on a district project.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public online want to comment? Okay, any further thoughts from board on this? Seeing none.
Lots of thoughts, but probably not
Well,
germane to the topic.
Directed.
But I do think that we ought to have a broader strategic discussion about our land banking topic, and whether or not that is something we want to make a strategic focus for the district, given all the other things that we have that are more in line with our main function of delivering water.
I just want to say, I think the admin committee would really like to start working on an overall strategic plan. And maybe that's something that can be incorporated into all of that, because that has not been updated in a very long time.
Yeah, I'm the one admin committee that I've attended that was brought up, and I have been looking at it and going. I hope to bring something back to the next admin committee.
I wanted to make a comment, follow up with what Mr. Holloway has mentioned. Sorry about that. It sounds like it might be worthwhile to ask our council to really take a look at the community development contract. I mean, I have not read it, and are these really funds that we've lost, and that we will only then realize the incomes that spun off of it forever? And so we've lost a little flexibility there. And to Mr. Holloway's point about the 55,000 that the district has probably effectively spent it. I know Jody's contract was 23,000 or so, something like that.
For this year.
For this year.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so we probably very likely have spent 30,000+ over the previous years. So maybe that is worth considering. It's money that we would have certainly legal rights to if that's all true. So I guess I just bring that up as something to contemplate. I mean, it's never fun going back and asking for something you've given, but maybe it's worth a quick amount of asking council about it.
Mark. I would go along with that if we could actually quantify how much has been spent on valid projects, maintenance or otherwise related to that area, that's 6 acres of area. If we have that information that's quantifiable, then I think maybe there's a foundation for being able to claw some of that back. My understanding was there wasn't, but maybe there is. Does anybody know?
Do we want that question? What estimated or guessed at right now, or come back to a subsequent meeting?
I don't think we can guess in order to take action.
That's
to claw it back.
Yes, yeah. To ask Jason at a subsequent meeting.
Take no action right now, then?
That's what I'm proposing. That's what I'm considering right now.
I think Bob's got a really good point.
Pending what I'm hearing from both of you, with staff, go back and assess what costs we have incurred realistically over the last.
On specifically maintaining that 6 acre
Yes.
plot, not the habitat conservation plan, not anything else.
Exactly, yeah, but that's 6
plot.
acres for the Olympia welfare.
And it's specifically, the wording is monitoring and management. So management sounds pretty broad. Maybe there's some definitions of what that means, but
Yeah, we have a whole plan, and I can bring that to you as well.
I think what we're more interested in are what costs can you attribute to this 6 acres?
reasonably attribute.
Right, that nobody else would question either. Well, yeah, we spent, the full contract was this, but the full contract was for 40,000 that we issued to them. But of that period, they spent approximately this percentage of it on this 6 acres, and the rest were spent somewhere else. Yeah, if that's the case.
So if I understand correctly, the line of reasoning that you're putting forward is, let's understand what the expenses have been on the 6 acres over the past 7 years.
Mhm.
Tally that amount, and then request the withdrawal of that amount from the endowment. Is that what you're proposing?
That's,
I think so.
yeah.
So,
Assuming it's legal to do so.
right, it may well be legal to do so. I think that the implication of that would be depletion of the endowment.
Right,
So just as a reminder, the purpose of the endowment is to have the capacity to yield 4% in perpetuity
Mhm.
for the management of the land. And the reason for that is because perpetual management of the land is an obligation we committed to in permit language with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
And the only thing I would add to that, Brian, is that financially, then what the district has in essence done is it's increased the endowment by 55,000. If we've actually spent 55,000 of our own funds over the last 7 years. Because the purpose of an endowment isn't to reinvest its income every year and make the endowment bigger. The purpose of the endowment is to take the annual income and then apply it to what you're supposed to do with it, right?
Right.
And
So,
yeah.
yes, so I think that what is missing from the equations that we've described so far, the calculations, is what is the anticipated ongoing cost burden of that
of that 6 acres,
6 acres?
right, yeah.
And hypothetically, let's say it's $20,000 a year. I don't know if it is. I think I heard a number.
23 was this year. So,
$20,000.
and that's like minimal,
right?
doing the basics.
So if $20,000 is the annual expenditure rate, let's say, that would be 4% of the target endowment amount. Which is to say, the target amount endowment amount would be 25 times 20,000.
Oh, 500,000.
So, right? And so if we are not at 500,000.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
the prudent course of action would be to continue to grow the endowment. Often in these types of situations, there's what's called a ripening period where the endowment is, some money is put in, but you don't touch it for a while so that it grows, so that it reaches some target amount that can then yield in perpetuity the 4%. And if we're below that threshold,
Yeah.
it may be prudent to continue to grow it. Though probably at an institution that's not taking 1.5% every year of relatively thin returns.
So perhaps one of the questions for Jody too is the $23,000 contract for this last year, is it that large because a lot of work needed to be done that was catch up? Right? Or is that really the amount that's needed every single year? And I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
And what would we get if we bid it?
there you go. Yes.
So, the opinions that I'm hearing here seem to me, we take no action tonight
Right.
on this.
You would like me to reach out to counsel, legal counsel to discuss where, if we can take the money out in a whole, if that's a possibility. I'm not saying we're doing it. I'm saying
Right.
Is there a possibility? And
No.
to also research, are there other places to put this endowment fund?
Yes,
And then to have come back with what are the annualized costs of doing this?
right. And to Director Foltz's point, is there somebody better out there at this than what we are?
Yeah.
We're in the business of providing water, not habitat protectors, but we're obligated to have that done.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all of that, come back to us at a subsequent board meeting. Further consideration.
Just before we depart from that, the principle that we are not habitat protectors, I'm not sure that that's actually true.
Mhm.
We do have, as part of our mission, some watershed protection responsibilities. And we certainly have a facilities and operations team that does all sorts of work maintaining land. The specifics of endangered species stewardship is a niche that we don't maintain expertise in, but contracting that work out, just like we contract out a lot of other work, is pretty straightforward.
Mark?
I'll also, in that context, note that we have worked with McGraw Consulting a good bit, and their hourly rates are generally far lower than most competitors. They're largely a kind of a passion. While it's a consulting firm, they're very dedicated to the resource, and as such, I think don't charge what a for-profit entity like the Zianti Sandhills Bank would.
Alina and then Bob.
Yeah, I think that same question as far as us being land management came up when we were out with Supervisor Martinez and we were discussing that. And I think Chris explained that pretty well, is that a lot of the stuff that we do is in partnership with other people, just like we contract out other stuff. And just talking about how it is important though to keep these lands for, for future mitigation for any projects that we do. And so continuing to control ownership is very important, but leveraging those partnerships for sure. That's all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let me just be really clear here. We own a lot of property. We have to manage it to some level. How we manage it is a completely different thing. And this is where it gets into the partnership. So when I say that our strategic focus is not on habitat management of 6 acres, it's referring to the implementation of how we use those acres. And there's a whole spectrum of partnerships you can take, from the ownership goes to Zianti and they manage it under certain conditions that we do, all the way up to we do everything internally. I'm just saying that that this side of everything internally is less of our focus from an implementation point of view, given all the other things that those guys have to do, mainly putting pipe in the ground versus this. And that I think the balance needs to be shifted from where we are today, which is more on the do it ourselves side, to partnership in a more substantive fashion. But it still has to be implemented.
So
Um,
I hear that, though. I think what I heard from Chris is he's not out there stewarding endangered species habitat. He's contracting with a contractor to do that work. So I guess, I'm not sure that I'm clear on the distinction there.
Let's bring it back.
Yes, we'll have Jason and Chris bring this back to us with further information so that we could conclude on the issue in front of us is the 55,000. And what do we do with that? There is the bigger picture issue that you're hearing come up with, what should we be doing on a more global basis, but that's for subsequent discussion. But for right now, it's this 55,000 we have in front of us. So with that, then like to conclude this item and move on to the next we have this evening, which is the board policy manual.
So as you all know, California law requires special districts to comply with the Brown Act, government codes, and other statutory obligations. And while these laws establish a minimum standards, best practices for each governing body to adopt a board policy manual that sets higher standards for transparency, accountability, and effective governance. So in your packet, you have a new board policy manual that's been completely comprehensively updated to reflect current law, align with board and committee direction, and modernize district practices. Some key substantive changes are limit consultation with district council to 30 minutes per month without prior authorization from the board president, improving accountability and cost control. Codifies regular meetings on the first and third Thursday with closed session beginning as early as 5 p.m. when needed. Strengthens the chair's authority to maintain order and protect deliberation integrity. Reaffirms that only the full board controls the agenda, not individual directors or staff. Modernizes teleconferencing provisions, making permanent Brown Act allowances and removing outdated restrictions. Updates the committee structure, separating engineering and environmental into two distinct standing committees. Replaces gender pronouns with gender neutral terms. Establishes clear director behavior standards and formal censure process for violations. Revises order of business, confirms action only minutes, and eliminates outdated summary requirements. Removes rigid deadlines, clarifies reimbursement disclosures, and adds definitions for clarity. These updates strengthen the district's governance framework by enhancing legal compliance with state law, improving transparency and accountability in board operations, modernizing procedures for efficiency and clarity, establishing best practice standards that reinforce public trust. And staff recommends that the board of directors approve the revisions to the board policy manual and adopt it as the governing document to guide board meetings, deliberations, and director conduct.
Okay. All right, thank you. As the longest term member of the admin committee, Helena, I'd like to hear from you on this, not only any questions you might have, but what the admin committee has done with this up to this point, if you care to.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have any questions since it was all in the admin that we went over, but I think the admin committee was very focused on making sure that the chair has a little bit more power in, making sure that the board discussions move along smoothly and just, getting a little bit more teeth into the board policy by adding that censure clause and kind of what the protocol would be moving forward on something like that. Yeah, we did this like forever ago, so I'm sorry. I've been waiting to come to the full board for a bit.
You mean 6 months was forever?
Feels like all the everything else we've been dealing with.
But it's been this year.
It was this year. Yeah,
Right.
It was this year that we did it. It's just
Okay.
it's been waiting a bit to come to the board.
Yeah.
So it's not as fresh in my mind. We've had a lot going on here. So, but yeah, if people have individual questions about that, I can probably help kind of just think about like what the committee was thinking as this was being written.
Okay. All right. Director Russ?
In, I guess in reviewing it, I guess it's codifying things I had thought were already the case, so I guess it's a good thing that it's in writing. I mean, I just assumed that we did have 4 standing committees and, the dates that the board meetings occur, policies, it looks good to me. I'm good. I'm solidly behind it.
Okay. Director Foltz?
I have many concerns with it. And given that the bulk of the additions to it had to do with the concept of punishment, and given that I have been the subject of a weaponized effort to silence me, through unfounded allegations made by former staff without any investigation, and then hauled up in front of the board and demanded that I atone for my sins and apologize in the best Star Chamber Communist China portion, I decided it would be good to take a closer look at this.
Okay.
Because there's serious issues in here about minority rights and dissent. And the ability of this to be weaponized against a board member for slights that come down to hurt feelings effectively, or I don't like the way you say things, or I don't like the fact that you're always talking about finance and how feckless our district has been about finance. When I was brought before the board and basically given my ability to have a struggle session, I said I would continue to do what I'd been doing, and I would continue to do it in the future. And I say the same thing here. Now, specifically with the changes that I want to ask or the questions I want to ask, I have a lot of things, probably 2 or 3 dozen things we need to talk about.
So, if it is that extensive, let me ask you the question. I can absorb information like that better if I read it. Would you be okay with sending your comments through Jason to us so that we could see those? Or do you want to go through each of those, what you said, 2 dozen?
Yeah, it's extensive because this is the first time since that Star Chamber session that we've covered the board policy manual. And so I wanted to do a very thorough review on it.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I think that would be helpful and streamline the discussion going forward. I want to preface that by saying, though, that there are so many things in here that would allow somebody to bring a censure charge for effectively no foundation. There's no requirement that they do so under penalty of perjury. There's no investigation that's done of a neutral party. This is like, and it's 10 days. These are things that just strike you as a kangaroo court.
Okay.
So that is kind of a preface of where all this is coming from. Because again, I'm probably hypersensitive to it, but as a dissenting board member who got hauled up in that way, I don't want to subject anybody else in the future who might want to dissent, but be worried about doing so because of the fact that they could get hauled up for a censure. And it's very easy under this board policy to do that for virtually no foundation at all, other than I don't like you and I don't like the way you said it.
So you're good with my
I'm
suggestion?
very good. I'm very good with it.
With that, so that we as board could see what you're.
Yeah. And I understand the politics behind this and why this censure thing was such a big deal around it, particularly given the fact that this in October, November 23, there was a move to try to censure me. It didn't go anywhere because ultimately the board knew everything that I was accused of had no foundation in fact.
That's not true.
See, that's what I mean.
No,
This is all about. This is all
You're
about.
saying that's
This is all about punishment.
No, it's not a punishment. Most boards have a
Alina,
censure
Alina,
policy.
Alina, please withhold. Bob, are you okay with my suggestion?
I am.
Okay, so what I would ask you to do is then submit through Jason.
Yeah.
Your comments. And.
Give me a couple days, 3 days to be, because right now I just have abbreviated notes. I'm gonna have to expand it
That's
to
okay.
explain.
That's okay. Yeah. Take your time on that. If it comes in front of the board at the next meeting, good. If it doesn't, I would certainly hope by the following one.
Yeah, I don't want Alina to feel badly that I'm gonna drag this out another 6 months.
No. Right. So in one of the other two. So,
I just
Well,
want to comment one thing though,
I-
but most board
I-
policy manuals have
Alina,
censure
I
policy.
do want to give Brian the opportunity first, and then we can come back through after we hear from
Okay.
the public and from me. So, Brian,
I reviewed the proposed changes. I don't have strong opinions about any of them. Board policy manual is not something that I think a lot about, and whatever works for everyone else is fine with me.
okay, all right. I will come back for a subsequent round of comments, but I do have a couple of specific ones in here. Do we have to do annual review of this? Because we haven't always done annual review.
It's part of the best practices. I mean, it's up to the board to decide exactly how often the review has to be.
Right.
It could be
Every other year, maybe.
every other year.
That's a suggestion on my part. And then I see on page 214, there's some call outs that are not correct. The director resignations does not have a heading.
Okay.
So just it's a formatting thing. So in a revision, go back and look at that. So, okay. All right. Those are my two primary comments on the document itself. I do want to respond to Bob. Bob, I disagree with that the board was out to get you at that point, or that we didn't have. I was part of that discussion, and I felt that we did have that. But put your comments in as to what you think. This censure aspects should read instead, and we'll look at it. Because we have new board members here that weren't part of this then, and they can certainly reflect on that also. So, before we go back for any other comments on this, since I don't think that we're gonna make a motion on this evening, any comments from the public on this?
These controversies come up. I've heard about something going on at Pajaro Valley School District. They want to censure one of their members. We heard about it at Palo Alto School Board. Earlier this year, they wanted to censor a newly elected member. So these controversies come up from time to time. Censure, as I understand it, really has no legal consequence at all. It doesn't affect where you are on the dais. Sometimes boards take steps, like they'll take that person off of all the committees, and they'll do stuff like that. They won't let them travel anywhere, or take any educational courses. I don't know what. They have various ways of punishing people, but ultimately, I don't think it amounts to much. As far as this policy manual, I'm reasonably satisfied that the word recall was eliminated, because there was absolutely no statutory basis for what it said.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Anybody else from the public wish to comment? I see none. Follow up from board members?
I just would like to say
Sure.
one thing is that when you look at other water districts
Mhm.
or anyone with a board, there is a censure policy.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of what happened last time is that we didn't have a policy in place. And so there wasn't a way that, you know, we needed to follow and move forward within that. So we did remove the
Mhm.
recall because you had brought that up, Holloway, and we added in the censure. The admin committee did not write the censure procedure. That was legal. So there isn't any try to like sliding one person or another. This is how legally you're supposed to operate a censure and is giving the framework for the board moving forward. If we have a board member that is acting, you know, out of context, out of conduct, you know, according to the board policy manual, this is, you know, we can outline that and follow it. So it was just supposed to be, you know, adding guidelines for us, not to go after one particular board member.
Okay. All right. Okay. Director Holmes?
Yeah, I have to correct you on that, Elena. The district does have a harassment policy, which is what I was being accused of by two staff members headed out the door. And there is a process in that harassment policy for what the board was supposed to do, and it failed to do it. So, and rather than follow the process, it decided to bring me back and conduct the Star Chamber struggle session.
Mhm.
That was wrong. And the reason the policy didn't actually get followed, in my opinion, is the board knew that there was no foundation for it. I hadn't done anything that I was being accused of, and that would have come out in an investigation. Other things would have also come out in the investigation through a discovery and the fact that the board policy manual wasn't being followed by those staff members during that time. All of that would have come out, and no one wanted that to come out at the time, because we're just about to go into a rate increase process, and no one wanted to have all of that going on at the same time.
Point of order,
If
we
the
are
board,
talking
if the
about
board, if the
policy
board
manual,
is
though.
going, if you brought this up as to the fact we didn't have a process last time to handle what I was accused of, and in fact, we did. So if the board is not going to follow through in policies that are written in black letter language, that's where I start getting very suspicious about things that are being added. And what triggered the evaluation I did. It was wrong all the way around.
Okay. Let us see your written comments on it then, and we can discuss at a subsequent meeting. Given that, I don't propose that we take any action on this, bring it back to the subsequent meeting. The consent agenda. Does anybody wish to? Sorry. What?
Yeah, there's two corrections in
Okay,
the
yeah.
minutes.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna need to, wait, do we need to pull it then?
Well, you can approve it with the corrections.
Yes, but then if you're going to do that, you have to pull it from the consent. We have to
Yeah,
do a
right.
vote.
And
On it.
vote that the corrections.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Approved as.
Or you can bring it back at the next meeting with the, we can,
There are two minor corrections.
okay, they're minor, no problem.
So, would you like to pull it from the consent calendar?
We have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
as to
expect
whether
the
it comes
poll.
back or- Yeah. Yeah. So, it's pulled from the consent. Do you want to take the time to go through those or just resubmit it with the changes? It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll just take time. Like I said, there are two minor corrections.
Okay, all right.
August 19th, closed session minute, page 2. Should read Bob Russ, director, not Jeff Hill.
Saw that.
And 10C, under the regular board meeting, should read that the motion passed 3-1 with 1 absent, not unanimously.
Hmm.
Those are the two corrections.
Okay. Anybody else? Comment on these? Okay. then I would propose with these changes as highlighted by our general manager that we approve the
Point of order,
revised minutes. Yes.
public comment.
Oh, okay. Any comments on this? Seeing none in the room and none online. I will still make that motion. Any objections?
Well, sorry, for a point of clarification, so the motion is to approve the August 19 and 21 minutes as amended by general manager.
Yes. That's what I was trying to say.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right.
Right, President Smalley,
Yes.
Vice President Ling,
Yes.
Director Foltz.
Yes.
Director Largay,
Yes.
Director Russ.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Okay. District reports, we have none. Correct, Jason? Okay. All right. Written communications. I don't have anything on those two that, oh, there is
job,
one,
Jesse.
there is one.
I want
Yes.
to bring,
Yes.
that. So a community member, Michaela Johnson of Ben Lomond wrote to commend the San Lorenzo Valley Water District for excellent service. You know, get about a lot of that, so want to bring it to your attention. She specifically recognized the operations manager, Jesse Guyver, for his prompt communication. And I want to point out that while the letter is directed towards Jesse, who did do an outstanding job, it's also a testament to dedication, professionalism, and commitment of the entire district staff in serving this community. So thank you to all of them.
Thank you,
Thank you.
It is nice.
thank you. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Okay, then with that,
Any public comment, point of order, sorry.
oh, okay,
Sorry, written communications has to have the same question.
all right, anything? Okay, noted that Mr. Holloway clapped also. Okay. Then with that, seeing no more comments online, I think we can adjourn. Okay. Thank you. Right.